Hi students, and welcome to week 11 in Lifespan Growth and Development. I hope you had a great October and happy November. It's crazy to already be talking about November. We will be at the end of the semester before we know it. So this week we are entering into chapter 11, which is emerging adulthood. And as we look at this is the newest stage added to the lifespan. So we used to go from adolescence straight into what was called young adulthood, and there was not something called emerging adulthood. But as more research was being done and understanding in psychology, it was noted that, really there is this phase, and just because you turn 18 one day does not necessarily mean, you are truly, facing everything that you will in adulthood, that there's still this transition period. And that's what emerging adulthood is all about. It is, you're still kind of got one foot at home, but the other foot is, kind of reaching out. You probably are taking on more financial responsibilities than you had previously, but maybe still getting some financial help. Most people in emerging adulthood still are not, set in their careers. And, we do know that if you look at the longitudinal data, that statistically, people are waiting longer to get married and to start families. So in emerging adulthood, the number of committed relationships and children and so forth is on a decline, as it has been previously. So there's a lot of things going on here, and it's a really interesting stage of lifespan to study. And many of you probably are in emerging adulthood, and hopefully will learn a little bit more about what psychological theory and research says about the stage of life that you're in. So I hope you enjoy learning about emerging adulthood. We'll just have this chapter on emerging adulthood, and then next week as we go into chapter 12, we really will start entering into adulthood. So you'll be able to see the difference there, coming right off the heels of adolescence the last couple weeks. So this week you have read chapter 11. You have a quiz over chapter 11, and then journal number 4, and it's your last journal. So I have so enjoyed reading your journals. You've been so reflective and so honest in your journals, and I appreciate that so much because I can tell that how it ties to your learning and your own self-discovery, which is really important. So thank you for all the work you've done, and I look forward to reading your final journal entry with journal number 4. So that is what is due this week by Sunday, November 7th. I do want to just jump ahead a tiny bit and preview next week. As I mentioned, we'll be moving into chapter 12, into adulthood. But I also want to put on your radar that you have an interview with someone in late adulthood that's due November 14th. So it's not due this week, but I just want you to start thinking about who is someone you might want to interview, and they need to be in the stage of late adulthood. So you can refer to your textbook and kind of see the age ranges there and so forth. It can be a family member, it can be a neighbor, it can be someone at work, church, whatever, whatever makes sense for you. I still very much respect the fact that we are in it's getting better, guys, fingers crossed, but we're still in the pandemic. And so, please do this interview as you see appropriate and fit, meaning that phone interviews are just fine. Zoom, FaceTime, be creative with the technology if it is not the best decision for you to be face-to-face with someone in late adulthood because of COVID still being around. So I'll certainly understand any provisions that you take with your interview. So when you click on that, there'll be some questions. So again, not due until November 14th. I just want you to start thinking about someone that you would like to interview. And I really challenge you. There's so much to learn, right? There's so much rich oral history from those in late adulthood that we don't always, stop and ask the questions of. And I'm feeling sentimental and I'm feeling emotional about this interview. I in January lost my last living grandparent, and so I'm at that stage of life now where I don't have a grandparent who is alive. And when I was born, I had all my grandparents and all my great grandparents, which is quite remarkable and pretty rare. But I've lost them all with losing my maternal grandmother this past January. So I'm feeling that connection to how important it is that we talk to people in late adulthood, that we learn from them, that we have so much to gain. And you'll see that as you go through the interview questions and then you perform your interview. So I hope that it's meaningful to you, and I hope that it also sheds some light and perspective on what it's like to live in late adulthood, if we can only all be so lucky to make it into our golden years, if you will. And then, of course, we'll be in adulthood that week, but I'm having you do this interview early so that you have that perspective as we enter the chapters on late adulthood. So I hope that you enjoy this week. I hope it is a good month for you. And as always, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me. Take care, everybody.